Okay, once again, good morning everyone, and I am the next discussant for today's video. So, in this morning, I will going to continue our assigned topic. That's all about Republic Act 9155. So, since we since we are done with chapter 1, now let's proceed to chapter 2. So, Chapter 2, Transfer of Cultural Agencies. In Section 8, Cultural Agencies, the Commission ng Wikang Pilipino, National Historical Institute, Record Management and Archives Office, and the National Library shall now be administratively attached to the National Commission for Culture in the Arts, or NCCA, and no longer with the Department of Education. The program for school, arts, and culture shall remain part of the school curriculum. So in this section, this means that the overall policy-making body of the Commission ng Wikang Pilipino, National Institute, Record Management, and Archives Office are now under the NCCA, or otherwise known as National Commission for Culture and the Arts. Meaning to say, ang NCCA or National Commission for Culture and the Arts ay sila na yung bumubuo at nagpapatupad ng programa and no longer to the Department of Education. Next is Chapter 3, Abolition of the Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports. So in Section 9, Abolition of BPASS. All functions, programs, and activities of the Department of Education related to sports competition shall be transferred to the Philippine Sports Commission, or PSC. So the program for school, sports, and physical fitness shall remain part of the basic education curriculum. So in this section, the Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports, or BPESS, is hereby abolished. The personnel of the BPASS, presently detailed with the PSC, are hereby transferred to the PSC without loss of rank, including the plantilla position they occupy. So in this section, ipinaglipat na ang Bureau of Physical Education and School Sports to PSC. Meaning to say, all functions and programs that are related to sports competition like larong pambansa, unit meet, district meet, and other competition that are related to sport are now transferred to the Philippine Sports Commission. Meaning to say, nasa kamay na ng Philippine Sports Commission or PSC ang lahat ng programang related to sports competition. And now, let's move on to Chapter 4. That's all about support and assistance of other government agencies. So in Section 10, it is stated that the Secretary of Education and the Secretary of Budget and Management shall within 90 days from the approval of this Act jointly promulgate the guidelines on the allocation, distribution, and utilization of resources provided by the national government for the field offices, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working conditions of the teaching service. So what does it mean in this chapter? The Secretary of the Department of Education, Sara Duterte, shall ensure that resources appropriated for the field offices are adequate and that resources for school personnel, school desks, and textbooks, and other instructional materials intended are allocated directly and released immediately by the Department of Budget and Management to said office. And now let's move on to Section 11. It is stated there that the Secretary of the Department of Education, subject to civil service laws and regulations, shall issue appropriate personal policy rules and regulations that will best meet the requirements of the teaching profession, taking into consideration the uniqueness of the working conditions of the teaching services. Meaning to say, sinasabi dito na ang kalihim ng kagawaran ng edukasyon sa ilalim ng mga batas at regulasyon ng serbisyo sibil ay maglalabas sila ng angkop na mga tuntunin at regulasyon. Kumbaga, mayroon itong angkop na tuntunin para sa pulisiyang pangkawanihan na pinakamakatutugon sa mga kahingian ng propesyon ng pagtuturo at higit sa lahat, isaalang-alang dito ang natatangi sa kondisyon ng paggawa sa serbisyo ng pagtuturo. Section 12. The Commission on Audit in the issuance of audit rules and regulations that will govern the utilization of all resources as well as the liquidation, recording and reporting thereof, shall take into account the different characteristics and distinct features of the department's field offices, its organizational setup, as well as the nature of the operations of schools and learning centers. So, in Section 12, sinasabi na ang Komisyon ng Audit sa paglalabas ng mga tuntunin at regulasyon sa audit ay dapat magsasaalang-alang sa iba't iba at natatanging katangian ng mga tanggapang panlarang ng kagawaran. Ang kaayusang pang-organisasyon nito, gayon din ang kalikasan ng mga operasyon ng pag-aaral at mga sentro ng pagkatuto. Next is the Chapter 5, the final chapter of Republic Act 9155. It's all about final provisions. So, in Section 13, Governance in the ARMM, or the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. So, in Section 13, Governance in the ARMM, it is stated that the Regional Education Secretary for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, or ARMN, shall exercise similar governance authority over the divisions, districts, schools, and learning centers in the region as may be provided in the Organic Act without prejudice to the provisions of Republic Act Number 9054, entitled An Act to Strengthen and Expand the Organic Act for the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, amending for the purpose Republic Act Number 6734, entitled An Act Providing for the Autonomous Regions in Mindanao, in Muslim Mindanao as amended. So, sinasabi dito na ang the Regional Education Secretary of ERMM ay magpapatupad siya ng parihong governance authority. Next is Section 14, Rules and Regulations. So, the Secretary of Education, Sara Duterte, shall promulgate the implementing rules and regulations within 90 days after the approval of this Act, provided that the Secretary of Education shall fully implement the principle of shared governance within 2 years after the approval of this Act. Meaning to say, within 90 days after the approval, the rules and regulations shall promulgate by our Secretary of Education. Next, Section 15, Section 16, and Section 17. So, in Section 15, Separability Clause. It is stated there that if for any reason, any portion of provision of this Act shall be declared unconstitutional, other parts of provision hereof which are not affected thereby shall continue to be in full force and effect. So, in Section 16, Repealing Clause. So, all laws, decrees, executive orders, rules, and regulations inconsistent with the provision of this Act are hereby repealed or modified accordingly. Meaning to say, lahat ng mga batas, mga dekreto, mga kautosang tagapagpatupad, at mga tuntunin o regulasyon na hindi kasalungat o hindi sang-ayon sa mga tuntunin ng batas na ito ay binabawi rito o binabago ito ng naaayon. And in Section 17, Effectivity Clause. So this act shall take effect 15 days following its publication in at least 2 newspaper of general circulation. So magkakaroon ng bisa ang batas na ito ng 15 matapos ang pagkakalathala nito sa hindi bababa sa 2 pahayagang may malawak na sirkulasyon. So, that's all for today. Thank you.